Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. This time, we're going to get scary, we're going to get atmospheric, and we're going to scream like little children as we've been playing Resident Evil 2 on the Xbox One, obviously produced by Capcom, because who else would make a Resident Evil game? This is where Richard, my wonderful co-host and compatriot as always, jumps on and says, well actually, this developer and that developer has also made a Resident Evil game.
I don't think I can do that. But hello, I am Richard. Nice to be here.
It's always lovely to have you, mate. Always. Universally, this game, if you're interested, you've probably already seen much love poured upon this. Deservedly so. And we're just going to add to that pile with another big spoonful of creamy fear and loving tension. All about Resident Evil 2. So, did you want to start us off, Rich? Because this was your idea to do this. Because we hadn't originally planned to do a video on this. But much like the impromptu Ace Combat one I did a week or so ago, it's warranted, isn't it?
Yeah, we hadn't planned it. I'm slightly distracted by thinking what creamy fear looks like. That's an odd turn of phrase, Ben. But let's press on. Resident Evil 2. Yeah, we hadn't really planned to record because I wasn't planning on being in a position to talk about it yet. I bought it last minute on the night it came out. Couldn't hold back from temptation.
As is your vice.
Yes. But it's really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. Just some context. I have played the original game. I am that old. It came back out in 1998. And I remember being at the midnight launch for it. Down in Wednesbury Games Galaxy. And I was the only person there. Because it's Wednesbury.
You're kidding. They did a midnight launch and you were the only person to show up.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing anybody else there, but it is Wednesbury, so if anyone is familiar with the town of Wednesbury, you will understand.
Well, if anybody's familiar with the concept of profit and loss, you'll also understand how that business probably went out of business pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't reckon that's there any longer. I suspect that's gone quite quickly. But yeah, I bought it midnight launch, and to my recollection, I'd finished Leon Kennedy's campaign by about 8:30 in the morning. So that was in the days when I didn't have to get up for work too early. That was nice.
So I suppose I should do the opposite then and add context for my impressions, which is that I have never played Resident Evil 2 before. I'm obviously very familiar with stuff. I've read about stuff. I've seen retrospectives on it. So it's not like I don't know what happens, but I never experienced that game. Much in the same way as I've played a little of the first Resident Evil, but never beaten it. Never played 0, never played 3. But then I kind of got into stuff when the third-person camera perspective was introduced with Resident Evil 4, and I've subsequently played all the Resident Evil games since then. So yeah, I basically skipped the good classic ones, played one of the good remake ones, and then played a lot of really crappy ones, like in the term of 6. 6 is so bad.
6 is terrible.
I had a lot of fun with 5 though, to be fair. 5
Yeah,
was a good game.
Yeah, 5 was really good.
Plays great.
I think underrated. Because the co-op stuff in that was, I really enjoyed a lot. I suppose it's down to having the right person to play with, but I blitzed through that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, really enjoyed the co-op. I mean, I always preferred Chris as well. I've always preferred Chris Redfield to Leon Kennedy, but that might be because I'd never played Resident Evil 2. Turns out Leon's kind of awesome in Resident Evil 2.
Leon is great, and Resident Evil 2 is commonly regarded as the best of the original trilogy.
So should we talk about what they've done to remake this? Because this isn't some HD re-release. This is a whole thing from the ground up, rebuilt, third-person action camera, plays like a modern game, looks incredible. And they've done so much work to release this game. And what I also quite like is that it's not a full price game. It's like a AA priced game. So it's actually, about 40 quid for the basic edition?
I paid 40 quid. Yeah, I think that the most you'll pay is 45, but even then, that's obviously cheaper than most games come out at launch. So yeah, competitively priced, especially considering, as you say, it's not just reskinned. This is absolutely built from the ground up. It could be a brand new game.
Yes,
it essentially is, except it's sort of reusing ideas rather than any assets or anything from the original game.
Yeah, it's hard to describe how stunning this is. Let me describe an early moment of the game so there's no spoilers. So very first level you're in is like a petrol station, a gas station, and you go inside and it's all in disarray, and I just looked around at the shelves and the detailing on all the packages and like, you know, the packets of crisps for intents and purposes and things like that on the shelves. Everything was individually modelled. It looked fantastic. I mean, it's not like it's all an interactable physical object, don't get me wrong. However, the fidelity to the textures and the fidelity to the environmental design is just gorgeous. And I should also point out, this is for my amusement, I bought the deluxe edition of this game because that's what Ben does. And I get these costumes and they're hilarious. So I've got both my Leon and Claire dressed up in their noir costumes, and these are two people that I've supposedly never met before this night. However, it looks like they're going to the same fancy dress party, and it's hilarious. Because they're matching. They're in these matching costumes, and it's so funny. It's like these two strangers who just happen to love to like dressing like 1930s noir detectives. It's so funny. I love it. But that's like might break the immersion a little. I also should admit, I am playing this on assisted mode, so the easiest mode possible for this game. My intention to beat it on easy and then come back. It doesn't make things super different. It gives you some aim assist with the targeting, and it gives you a modicum of regenerating health. So it's not quite as punishing. Go on, tell me how wrong I am.
Yeah, I think you're kind of breaking a lot of the tension that this game has to deliver. We'll talk about how scary it is in a minute. But half of the idea of Resident Evil is the original survival horror. It's about maintaining a supply of ammo when actually you might want to use it, but what's around the corner? Do you want to use it just yet, or save it for something more dangerous in a few minutes? The health pickups, it's got the old herbs, the trusty herbs there, the red herbs to strengthen, the green ones which boost your health. There's not many of those knocking about, so how many can you put together and save for a rainy day? If it's got regenerating health and auto aim on the weaponry, I don't know, you kind of...
It's not perfect, it's not auto aim. It basically means you can land a headshot a bit easier. That's all it means, and it doesn't like regenerate your health all the way up. It's sort of like health is actually, it's strange because the way it's presented in the game is this fluctuating like medical readout. It's not a number, but it sort of recognizes it in segments, if you like. So green and then yellow and then red, and it will regenerate to the top of the segment it's in. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't go all the way from red to green. Yeah. I still got messed up when I met my first licker. Like after managing the zombies quite easy, and especially after playing the demo, I had an idea of the way the game played, the cadence of the combat. So it's a case of, you know, you plant your feet, you take your time, you line up your shots, you know, you conserve your ammo, you pick your shots very carefully. So dealing with normal zombies, I actually found quite simple, even playing it on the normal difficulty. But man, when that licker comes in and it's jumping all over the place, I'm like, oh, shotgun, and even then I nearly got killed. So it was tense. You sort of mentioned the craziness of the Resident Evil franchise, which is sometimes easy to forget, but whenever you play, because you look at these games and they look incredibly modern, and then you have things like you mentioned the crazy health herbs that you can mix together, and the first aid spray, which somehow gives you all your health back by just a mist on your face, and then the most bonkers puzzles that you'll ever find in a game ever. And it's such a strange mixture of this incredibly tense, horrific, moment-to-moment gunplay with these fantastical puzzles, which are like something absolutely bonkers from an entirely different game. Like they fit well in an Uncharted game more than they would in a survival horror game. You know what I mean? It's strange, but it works.
It's the sort of puzzles
and variety. Yeah,
you're right. In Uncharted, they wouldn't feel quite so absurd because they'd be separated from sort of the modern culture in which that experience exists. This is a different culture from years ago. They just built these doors that are on weird mechanical devices and unlocked by sunlight or some shit. That's just what they did in those days. Doesn't quite work in a modern American police station, does it? But that's what Resident Evil 2 does.
Well, I know that the police station is contextualised because I've got friends who are massive Resident Evil fans, who I was talking about before this came out. People that have taken time off work to beat this game in 24-hour sittings, things like that. And they were explaining to me the contextualisation of the police station is that it's actually an art museum that has been retrofitted as a police headquarters, and was designed by this crazy bonkers dude who loved puzzles or something. And it's like, and I think that's in the game somewhere. Maybe we've not got there yet, but I just sort of nod and go, okay, sure. If you say so. Just sounds like Resident Evil to me. I mean, it has that similar thing to the start of Resident Evil 7, the new one that was first person, where it starts off in a very restricted singular environment, and then we won't spoil anything. I don't know how far you've got, Richard, but I don't want to spoil. The game doesn't stay in the police station, and things do open up considerably, as does the variety of things like enemies and craziest bosses and creatures and stuff. I don't know how much you want to talk about the slight frustration you're experiencing right now due to a certain enemy.
We can talk about that. I mean, it is a new game, but a lot of the beats from the original Resident Evil 2, it's all there, and it seems pretty faithful so far. I'm at the point where I thought I was out of the police station. I'm not quite. I've found an extra route through it, got down to the basement, and I'm sort of back out through that and back into the station again now. And that's the point at which the tyrant appears. So in the first Resident Evil, you've got this tyrant, which is like a genetically created beast that's almost indestructible and chases you until he catches you and kills you, essentially. So you're constantly trying to evade this impervious monster, and he makes a comeback, but oddly he's in a suit and hat in the second one. I can't really remember why that would be, so it just seems like Capcom absurdity at this point.
Probably.
Yeah. But yeah, he's knocking about and he just pursues you incessantly from room to room. You can get some respite in one of the save rooms, so he won't follow you in those handily, so you can sort of wait till he walks off. But it's really frustrating having him sort of stomp in the halls, chasing you down. You've got to run away from him because he maintains quite a pace. But at the same time, you've still got zombies milling about corridors, and the lickers you talked about, I've actually found them not so difficult to deal with so far, because you can just walk past them if you're slow enough and just keep quiet. They can't see you, so if you're quiet, you'll be okay.
Shouldn't have shot one when I first saw it then, huh?
Nah, don't do that, mate.
Okay.
And make sure you pick up notes, because there is a note in the loft that says, don't make noise around lickers.
Oh, I read that. I just didn't care.
Oh.
I have guns. I want to use them.
Well, listen to advice. So yeah, you can't really do that when this tyrant fella's knocking around, so it's either walk slow and the tyrant catches you, or walk fast and then the licker's going to get you. So I'm sort of stuck in that dichotomy at the moment.
So I'm about to meet this guy, and it sounds like he basically changes the formula that they establish early on of how to deal with enemies pretty severely. He's gonna mess things up for me.
Yeah, because you get to the point where you think, right, I've fortified this section of the station. I feel relatively safe, because in the opening hour, you get the feeling that there is no stopping these zombies. They're in all the corridors. They're spilling through the windows. You get to a point where you find boards, and you can board the windows up and stop any more zombies coming in if you can do the lot of them. So on a couple of the wings of the station in my game, I feel relatively safe. But then he starts knocking about and chasing me. It's sort of back to square one, really. There's no safe place apart from maybe a safe room if I can get to it quickly enough without a licker following me. So yeah, it's really quite challenging, and the balance of sort of how it encourages you to be quiet, but also demands that you make a lot of noise and engage in combat sometimes. It's a interesting tension. I spoke a few minutes ago about how scary the game is. I'm not actually sure it's scary. I mean, it does all the right things in creating those tense moments. So in practical terms, yeah, you're feeling it. But actual fear, I'm not sure, and I don't really know why that is, because it does a really good job of graphically representing some really quite gruesome situations. People who've played the demo or seen the trailer will probably have seen the first few police officers that you meet. One in particular gets stuck under a grate under a door, and only half of him comes out, and stuff like that. It's really quite detailed, and more than you probably want to see while you're eating your dinner.
Well, yes, that's fair. No, it's incredible to look at. Like, the fidelity of the gore is something else.
Yeah, so it does all of that right, but it's still not really scaring me, and I don't know what that is. Maybe it's because it is a remake and I know all these beats are coming, you know.
Yeah,
maybe it's because of that.
I mean, I guess
doing everything right.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I'm obviously playing it on easier mode, but I'm not exactly feeling. I think Resident Evil 7 was scarier, but this is tense. But I actually feel like I'm in control a lot of the time. I think that's might have been the difference between this and Resident Evil 7, because Resident Evil 7's camera angle is in first person. It means that there's a sense of claustrophobia and you're not aware of your surroundings in the same way as you are in Resident Evil 2. You know, you feel very mobile, you feel very much aware of everything that's going on around you. You know, you've got that knife as well, which you can just whip out as close defense. And even if a zombie does grab you, if you have the knife, you can counter that very easily. You know, get a bit of distance and then deal with them or run away from them. It's just it's a very good balance of puzzle, action, and sort of thriller. It works really well, and I can see why the original 2 was so highly regarded at this point. Yeah, after playing this for only a few hours at this point, I guess, but I'm really looking forward to putting more time into it. Actually, yeah, it's really, really good. It's really fantastically well done remake. Actually, like, no, I don't think I've ever seen anything remade as well as this.
I was going to say, there's not much, is there? I'm trying to think.
Shadow of the Colossus, I guess.
Yeah, but even then, that was.
But that's more of a reskin.
Exactly, that's almost a reskin because there isn't anything fundamentally different in that. I mean, this is completely rebuilt. The original game, you talked about camera angles. Resident Evil 2 was still similar to the first one.
Isometric.
Whereas it was fixed camera angles because it wasn't a real background. It's just a 2D image with 3D models laid on top of it. It couldn't let you look around. It just wasn't that technically advanced, the engine. So that added a lot of the tension as well, because you could hear stuff. You could hear zombies somewhere, but you couldn't really look around to tell where they were. It might be on the next screen, who knows. So that added something that maybe this sort of relieves tension from a little. But yeah, back to the point, this really has built the game entirely from scratch. It's almost nothing like the original.
With everything from the perspective to the character models to the voice acting to the music to the, you name it, it's been redone, rebuilt, and reconstructed in a much more modern way, and a much more modern game. It's absolutely fantastic. And even if you're not like a big Resi fan traditionally, I think even then it's still worth checking out. It's an incredible accomplishment. Yeah. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of Experience Kills. So if you can like this video, subscribe to our channel. We have a dedicated audio/podcast feed where if you don't have the time to watch the videos, maybe on your commute you can have a listen instead. So link to that is in the description. So please head over there and subscribe as well. You can find us on Twitter at Experience Kills, and you can find me on Twitter at DIYE. Richard, where can people harass you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Colonel Red.
So I think that's the end of this particular episode. So XPK out.
Bye.
Bye.